Hello. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Carandiru massacre, one of the most tragic and controversial events in Brazilian history, representing the depths of the crisis of the prison system in the country and its social and political implications. This massacre took place in 1992 at the Carandiru detention house, located in São Paulo, and became a symbol of police brutality and the dehumanization suffered by prisoners in Brazil. The Carandiru detention house, opened in 1956, was designed to house approximately 3,000 prisoners, but at its peak capacity, it held more than 7,000. Brazil's prison system in the 1980s and early 1990s was marked by extreme overcrowding, lack of resources, corruption, and inhumane conditions. Prisoners faced not only violence among themselves, but also repression and abuse by prison authorities. During this period, São Paulo experienced an increase in crime and drug-related violence. This atmosphere of fear led to increasingly drastic responses by the government and police, who justified the use of extreme force as a means of controlling crime. On October 2, 1992, a riot broke out in Carandiru's Ward 9. Prisoners were demanding better living conditions, adequate medical care, and an end to abuse by guards. This riot began after a group of inmates attempted to take control of the ward in response to a number of pent-up tensions. The confrontation soon escalated and military police were called in to suppress the prisoners. At 9 a.m., security forces stormed the prison with the intention of regaining control. The operation was carried out without any prior attempt to negotiate with the prisoners or seek a peaceful solution. Instead, violent intervention was ordered. Accounts of the event indicate that the police used firearms to control the situation. Thousands of shots were reported fired, and over the course of the operation, 111 prisoners were killed. The exact death toll has been a matter of debate, with some sources suggesting the number could be even higher. Footage of the operation showed unarmed prisoners being shot, as well as the bodies of those who succumbed to the gunshots on the floor of the prison. The massacre sparked deep outrage inside and outside Brazil. The events were portrayed in the media, and media coverage took a critical approach to police brutality and the way the state had handled the situation. Various human rights organizations, both national and international, condemned the police action and demanded accountability. Furthermore, the massacre was seen as a reflection of the broader problems facing the Brazilian prison system. Over the years, reports have revealed that many of the prisoners at Carandiru were poor people, often accused of minor crimes, or involved in drug trafficking in a system that lacked viable alternatives for rehabilitation. Over the years, the issue of the Carandiru massacre continued to be the subject of public debate. In 2001, a São Paulo court of law acquitted 18 police officers involved, clearing them of any responsibility for the deaths in the massacre. This verdict sparked a new wave of protests and criticism, both nationally and internationally. Human rights organizations denounced the decision as reflecting an unwillingness to confront and hold accountable the abuses committed by law enforcement. However, the matter did not stop there. In 2013, a Brazilian court reopened the case, and several police officers were eventually convicted for their involvement in the massacre. As a result of this process, in 2015, a police lieutenant was sentenced to 624 years in prison, although that sentence was later appealed. The struggle for justice and recognition of the victims of the massacre continued through the years, symbolizing the battle for justice within a system that is often seen as oppressive. The Carandiru massacre has left a lasting mark on Brazilian culture. In 2003, director Hector Babenco brought to the screens the film adaptation of the story, titled Carandiru. The film is based on the book Carandiru Station, written by Dr. Drauzio Varela, who worked as a volunteer at the prison. The author's account and subsequent film exposed the inhumane conditions of prison life and gave voice to the prisoners and their stories. public awareness of the living conditions of prisoners has begun to change, although institutional violence and overcrowding in Brazilian prisons remain ongoing problems. The massacre has been used as an example of the need for reforms in a penal system that critics say prefers to incarcerate and punish rather than rehabilitate. Today, the Carandiru massacre remains relevant in the context of police violence in Brazil and in the discussion of human rights. Favelas and the most vulnerable communities continue to be targeted by aggressive tactics by the police, who often use lethal force in operations against drug trafficking. The lessons of the massacre have become a call to rethink public security policies, human rights, and the treatment of prisoners in Brazil. Activists and non-governmental organizations continue to advocate for structural reform that addresses the underlying causes of violence, as well as more humane rehabilitation policies. The Carandiru massacre is undoubtedly one of the most notorious tragedies in contemporary Brazil. It represents the brutality of the prison system and highlights how public policies can fail its most vulnerable citizens. The fight for justice in relation to the massacre continues, and it remains a symbol of the challenges Brazil faces in terms of human rights. It reflects the need for a state that protects its citizens, offers alternatives to violence, and treats everyone humanely, regardless of their circumstances. The story of Carandiru should be remembered as a call to action and deep reform to prevent something similar from happening again in the future. Please comment what you think of this story, if you already knew it, and if you know of another equally aberrant event. I would appreciate it if you subscribe and share the story. Thank you, and see you in the next video.